The wheel of time turns,
and ages come and pass.
leaving memories that become legend.
Legend fades to myth,
And even myth is long forgotten when the age that gave it birth comes again. In one age,
called the third age by some,
an age yet to come,
an age long past.
a wind rose in the mountains of mist.
The wind was not the beginning
There are neither beginnings nor endings,
to the turning of the wheel of time,
but it was
a beginning.
Welcome to another episode of Another Turning.
Today we're going to discuss our predictions for Season 1, Episode 1 of the Wheel of Time TV show.
So starting out, let's go over what we're looking at and how we're coming about these predictions for these episodes.
Yeah, so how many episodes do you think are going to be in Season 1?
Well, speculation based on Amazon shows is 10 from a lot of people. If they were doing just book 1, I would go with 8, but all evidence out there is showing at least part of book 2, so I'm thinking 10 episodes is a good prediction.
Well, I was thinking that too, but I have an article that was leaked a while ago. It leaked a couple extras, and one of the things that was included was a little snippet of something from Amazon that said 8 episodes. So I think it is going to be 8 episodes.
See, I personally just think 8 isn't enough to cover 2 full books. Maybe if they're going to cut somewhere in the middle of the second book, but
That's my thought. I think they're going to get to, and when we get to the end of the season, I guess we could talk about my specifics, but I think it'll be 8 episodes and it's going to end in the middle of book 2. I don't think they're going to do all of it.
all right. So that's for the full show. Specifically for the first episode, I mean, the knowledge we have for it is an episode title, correct?
Yeah, so Rafe had, early on when he was the one in charge of Watt Wednesdays, had tweeted out a picture of the script for episode 1. It was titled Leavetakings, but the speculation is that it might have changed because when Amazon did that table reading video, the script was shown and the title was blurred in it. So some people think it might have changed. But I think going with the Leavetaking title is giving us good parameters for what we do for predictions, I think.
Yeah, I find it interesting that the title was blurred there, especially since recently they showed up a new episode. So it's not like they're hiding episode titles from us.
Well,
I think that was probably just a whole catch-all, like just blur everything just to be safe.
well, that new title, I don't think we were supposed to see. So just to give a quick update on that, if you're not in the circle, in the know, Priyanka, I can't think of her last name, who is playing Alana in the TV show, that is confirmed, tweeted out, or didn't tweet, she on Instagram posted a picture of the episode 5 script titled Blood Calls Blood, but it was taken down very shortly after that, so I think it's probably a good chance she wasn't supposed to show that.
Okay, so you keep more up to date on that. I just know it was posted. I did not realize it was taken down quickly.
Mhm.
So maybe
Yeah.
it was not supposed to be.
I don't think so. I think, well, Amazon doesn't seem very good at controlling their leaks.
Well, even if it's taken down right away, it could be a leak that is purposely allowed to get out. I mean, it's not
It's
easy.
possible.
It's not hard to control. I'm a believer that most leaks are on purpose.
It might be. You never know. But if we go with the episode title of Leavetaking, if we assume that's what that is also the title of Chapter 10 of Eye of the World. Chapter 10 gets to them leaving the Eye of the World. Or leaving Emmons Field. So it starts with them in the stable, like checking out, getting their horses, everybody joins the party, and then the party rides out of Emmons Field. So that's what Chapter 10 is. Do you think that's where they'll actually go with the episode?
Well, let's see. Other things we do know, if it's staying the same, is it was mentioned by Rafe Judkins, if I'm remembering correctly, that he does plan on opening up with Tam and Rand on the Western Road.
On on the old road. That was another
Yeah.
one. He showed that script snippet. What's the road? The quarry road. Um, but it wasn't. See, this is my misunderstanding too. When he had tweeted that, I thought it was the first scene too, but it's not necessarily the first scene. But we know that's happening in the first episode. We know the Tam, Rand, Bella on the quarry road is happening somewhere in the first episode.
Yeah, the reason I brought that up is because we don't know what the starting point is. There's been speculation on whether or not they're going to include the prologue, which if they include the
Do you
prologue
think they
in the
are?
first episode, no, I've started to agree with some people that that's something that could be added in later, but I think it should be in there.
Yeah, that's how I feel about it too. I think twofold. I think one, starting with the prologue is going to bring back bad memories of Winter Dragon, which might be something they want to avoid. But I also think it's a very confusing starting point. Even people reading the books for the first time are like, "What the heck was that?" So I think it's actually good to stay away from that and then make great dream sequences or flashbacks later on. But
I
yeah, I
agree.
agree. So where do you think they should start?
Some other speculation has been possibly some snippets of Moraine from New Spring, and that I
Mm.
could get behind, but I do personally believe they're going to start with Rand and Tam on the quarry road.
All right, so we're already disagreeing. I think because we have gotten word from Rafe that Logain is one of his favorite characters and he wants to expand it, I think they should start with the battle sequence of Logain.
Ah, I mean, we're talking first episode. We have an hour. Okay, first episode of the show. Big things you want to get out there. You need to show your world. You need to show your characters. Already, in based off the book alone, those first 10 chapters, 120 pages or so, we have the main Emmons Field 5, Moraine, Lan, Ham, debatable, as well as like Bran Alvear, uh,
Well, you want
Senmu.
to,
You have a couple of other named characters that are
yeah,
minor,
but the big ones
that
is
need
you
to be
want to introduce your
introduced.
party. You want to introduce, Rand, Matt, Perrin, Egwene, Nynaeve, Moraine, and Lan. Like, you need to, oh, and Tom. And I guess
Yes.
Fane's important too. So, like, those are the ones you need to get introduced. But I think starting with a big action sequence of a battle would be a cool spot to start. And not even for long. Just like, I think start with that battle and then transition to the wind blowing and then Tam and Rand on the road.
I could see that. It would be a big action thing, a big catch within the first episode, but with it being through a streaming service and the binge society where we are nowadays, I'm assuming they're going to drop it all at one time. And because of that, you don't need to have as strong an impact as you might need to in a pilot episode for a show that people are going to have to wait a week for the next episode. Because of that, I think you can get away with what seems boring for the first 15 minutes or so of an
That's
episode.
true. I mean, on that point, I kind of hope they don't drop it all at once, but chances are they will. That tends to be what Amazon does, even though other streaming services have done weekly releases. Um, you're right. I think if they start with Rand and Tam on the road, it's interesting. So let's talk about that scene. If we're starting there, maybe they start
So,
somewhere else, but let's say, I want that scene to have such a cool horror tone to it, is what I really want from that scene.
well, I know me and you have talked about it beforehand when they first announced the show and stuff, and I really think I jokingly put out. I mean, it's similar to the Game of Thrones whole map thing, but doing similar thing with the wheel turns and showing little scenes or something to kind of introduce the show for their intro, their theme, and then it just zooming in to a scene, like one of these little scenes that's happening in the turning. They zoom in on, so they zoom in on that scene, and so they're walking along, and I think it's going to be a lot with the setting, the very obvious, like they're alone. It feels very alone out there. It's the
Yeah.
two of them. All you can hear is the wind. The wind very important there. And the leaves in the trees being blown by the wind.
Yeah. Yeah, so for the opening, I want it to be narration of the Wheel of Time turns. And I think for
Yes.
season 1 it'd be Moraine narrating, but yeah, and then the wind blows by like Rand's cloak and he shivers. You hear just like that eerie, almost eerie silence of just maybe the trees rustling a little. There aren't any birds, no critters moving, and you kind of do that eerie horror movie music.
I would. I don't know how much music I want for that. I want that to be a very short scene, actually. Like, sees him, talks to his dad, looks back, he's gone, a couple more sentences, and cut from them.
Yeah,
Because,
yeah. I think it could still be short, but I think personally, I think it needs to build that suspense some. So you have like Rand shivers, and then he looks behind. He kind of like kind of gets that like goosebump feeling. This is like a lot of facial work on the part of Joshua. And then like
yeah,
he looks behind him, is somebody there? And I want it now in the actual book. He looks behind him, and there's the fade. I want him to look behind him, and there's nothing. And then he looks forward, and there's the fade. And then like he kind of
mm,
follows it.
hmm.
And then like in the books, and I think it's a great way to do it, he trips, and that's why he breaks eye contact, and then he's gone. And I think doing that would be just so dramatic.
The problem with it, he looks back and then looks forward, is it being in front of them when they're walking just wouldn't quite work the same.
Well, not like directly in front of him, but like off to the side. So like, Tam's on the right side of the cart, Rand's on the left side. Rand looks behind him, doesn't see it, looks forward, and off to the left in the woods, there's the fade. And then he like turns and follows the fade with his eyes as he walks, trips, breaks eye contact, says something
Okay,
to
I see what you're
Tam,
saying.
fade is
So
gone.
So for like camera work, as if we did it almost from his point of view, is it just that
Yeah.
sweeping to one way, looking, panning left, doesn't see anything behind him, starts panning right and at an angle, like he doesn't all the way get to look forward again because he gets stopped
Yeah.
and he sees the fade. I think that's a great idea, actually.
I just really want them to play up that horror element of it because it's just such a creepy scene when you like read it. It's like, and so like I can like almost hear that like music swelling, the like, and then music cuts, and then he looks at him and like the heartbeat, the like, boom, 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 boom.
I agree. I agree. And I think it should be, and there's your catch even. It's a super tense moment for
Yeah,
like a couple of minutes
that's
and then
true.
cut to the town.
And then it's all bright and cheerful. That's what I want is when they cut to the town, it's like bright and cheerful. Everybody's preparing for the festival. And it's just like a
Exactly.
weird tonal shift, like jarring tonal shift from the like eerie woods to bright village.
I also think along with that is they should, when they cut to the town, is cut off of Rand's point of view. As readers will already know everything. We've talked about this, and I agree that if they can try to make it more subtle of who is the most important.
Oh, I totally agree.
So when they cut to the town, is show Rand or sorry, Matt or Perrin a little bit, showing we'll do Matt, for instance. They can switch to Matt. They can have Matt coming up to Rand when they are delivering the brandy. Do it
Oh.
from Matt's point of view, or maybe a little before that. What was Matt doing catching a badger? I think that would be awesome to see a little bit of that.
That would be an interesting scene to do instead. So like do a little bit of each of them. So maybe it's like Perrin at the forge for a little bit and you show that he's this like responsible working man. And then you switch to Matt and he's goofing off catching a badger. That would be kind of cute. Is that you establish each of them separate before you get them together.
Well, you could do it for each time when you go to introduce the new person. So, okay, that's how Matt gets introduced, but we do it from his point of view a couple minutes before then. And then they go through their whole scene of what they're talking about, run into Moraine, and then switch to Perrin's point of view. He's finishing up his day in the forge or whatever he would be doing in the morning.
That would be
And you hear the commotion of the peddler, and that's what draws him over to run into the rest of
ah.
them.
Yeah, I like that. Like he's in the forge. Harold Luhan's already gone. No, he's not. So it could be very much like he's at the forge and Master Luhan's there and he's like, "Oh, the peddler's here. Let's end for the day." Something like that. And then they
Exactly.
go
So we
out and
get,
that's when Perrin meets with the other. I like that.
see, that's how I think it's a good way to stick to the story, but switch up the point of views really early on and show that like their personalities a little more, like who are these people really early. And
Yeah, I
then
like that.
once they're all together, you can get the interactions as a group with
Do you think
Egwene, Nynaeve.
so? That's the other thing. Do you think Egwene and Nynaeve should have a moment like that before they join them, or do you think they should just join? Because I can't think of anything interesting. Well, they're helping somebody. There's a sick woman they're helping during the whole commotion with Fane. So they could start there and show Nynaeve giving herbs to this woman and like Egwene helping before that.
I could see that, but I'm already thinking like we're already talking three different point of view switches within like the first 15 minutes of the
Yeah,
show.
well, I'm trying to think of like episode 1 of Game of Thrones, what they did, because that's another show that had like a lot of different point of views. So I'm trying to
Yeah,
think
but
of
they
how
were
many
all in
they
the same
had.
area, so they were very involved
These
together.
would too, though. Like they would all be in the same town and just because they had Jon Snow, Arya's thing, but they were together. I don't know. Um, but they could do something
One
like that.
one way you could put them in is actually is do Egwene before Matt, have her be the first person in Emmons Field because there's the big deal about her braiding her hair for the first time. So and that could be a really good way to introduce the concept of Beltane
Is like
and
her
what's going
mom.
on with her.
That would be good. A little bit of
Uh,
either her mom or Nynaeve being like, the women's circle has decided you're a woman now. You may braid your hair or something like that. That'd be
for
cute, maybe.
Nynaeve though, Nynaeve, I feel like she's a weirdly unimportant important person at the
Yeah,
beginning.
yeah. She's almost secondary to the other one.
The best time to introduce her is Winter Night. Like, by herself, introduce her.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Because, so, okay, that's Emmons Field. You agree with kind of the concept
Yeah, I
before
like
Rand
that.
leaves.
The one thing I want during Fane's thing, I've been trying to reread it and like refresh how everything happens in that first book. Um, and this is the thing, even if you don't want to introduce Logain to start off, I think it would be so cool during Fane's whole there's a false dragon in Gildon speech, is interspersing that speech and the Emmons Fielders like reaction to that with snippets of the battle.
I could get
That like
behind that.
yeah, so like, it's Fane talking.
I'm going to be honest with you here. The whole, I know it's been mentioned that trying to make Logain more about him and stuff, and that's the hardest thing for me to grasp and include. Like, that is a good way to include that,
Yeah.
because
It's basically there's like a scene where like Fane is like there's war and then so like you start showing scenes of the battle, like vaguely when he mentions that they're war, and then he's when the standard of the dragon has been raised and start to escalate that. And then Master Fane mentions specifically he's like, but this dragon can channel and then like escalate the battle so that now there's like lightning flashing and stuff like that. And then when he mentions Aes Sedai have been sent to quell this or whatever, then you have like an approaching army that's like women in the front with clearly order warders, and then like cut that battle scene. And so like get the hints that this is the battle where Logain gets captured, but we don't know it yet. Is kind of what I was
possibly.
picturing.
The only problem, like, it'd be really good as showing those flashbacks, flash adjacents, at the time of his announcement would work really well for a show, but I don't think it's quite what Rafe Judkins is looking for with trying to expand Logain's rule.
Yeah, it's just those are the things that like talking with people, they were like, if they're gonna expand Logain's role, these are the scenes we want. And one of them was like, we want to see him get captured. We want to actually see his gentling. So I think that's a way of like doing it, and it just adds a little more action to this first episode earlier when there's just a lot of exposition happening. It's a lot of talking, and I think adding something like that just ups the ante a little bit.
I would think then it would have to be Padden Fane starts to explain that yes, there's a dragon here, and it kind of does that whole fade from him narrating into a here's Logain, and we get a good like 10-minute scene of
Mm,
Logain
yeah,
introducing
I don't
him as
want
a
that much.
character.
I just want splashes. I think that early we don't need to get that deep into Logain because I think he's kind of painted as the villain early on. Not entirely, not the big bad capital V villain, but like he's not painted as a good guy early. So I don't think we need the whole thing. I just think little flashes of here's a battle and then little flashes of here's the destruction of the one power. And it just kind of helps justify the like fear that everybody has about channeling
True.
in a show not tell kind of way.
Yeah, I can get behind that. I just, like I said, Rafe Judkins saying it's his favorite character and wanting to expand his role for episode one. He, if he's going to be as important as other characters, he needs a true introduction. And
Yeah, I
in
can
the
see what you're
first
saying.
book, there is nothing after episode maybe two's content where you can do anything because he's already captured by that point.
Right. But I think I don't personally the way I see it is you don't want to play him up as too important
I
prior
agree.
to the events of book 4. I'm trying to keep out of spoilers beyond book 1. So like but those events in book 4, you don't want to show that Logain's too important before then. Um because he doesn't seem important. So that's the purpose of that scene would be less about Logain and more just horrors of war, effects of the power kind of thing.
And I agree with you, and that's why I said the whole expanding Logain as a character, it's hard for me to truly understand that because I'm with you. He's supposed to not seem important until later in the series.
Yeah. So it might be that all of his stuff about expanding Logain is referring to later in the series, but it still seems like a cool scene. So
Yes, I agree.
anyway, we
Okay,
get
so
Spain, Egwene and Nynaeve
Tom,
show up,
yeah, Tom
and
Maryland, I don't
then
think needs to be changed much.
not
That
really. It's
scene.
actually a relatively short scene. I was like reading it and I was like, this is so many pages. And then I like read through like what it actually is. I'm like, this is such a short scene. Like his whole You Want Stories thing. I'm like, man, that didn't take nearly as long as I expected. So like that'll be a
Exactly.
cool little intro to him. And then Tam and Rand head out.
So this is probably, I think it'll be important to get their conversation as they're heading out about the whole stranger and thing. That, oh, you believe me?
Yeah, just a little bit of it. I don't think it and then they cut to the farm. I want this is where I really want to start seeing other perspectives. I like your thing of introducing the characters, but this is where I was thinking of like I want to see a little bit of like everybody visiting each other on winter night. Um, see a little bit of like Rand or Matt and Perrin trying to like rally some friends kind of thing. Not a
Yeah, and I think,
lot,
and
but a
well, I
little
know
bit.
we talked about this a little bit, and I think it'd be good. So we get back to the farm, we get to see them playing house a little bit, and then jump to uh Emmons Field once, lock the doors, and he brings the sword
I
out, so
wasn't
we can
even gonna
get
go
that
that far. So they
introduced.
do the whole they're doing chores and stuff, and I think you do a little bit to establish that they're gonna do some farm work and then go back to Emmons Field. We don't
Okay.
need to watch Rand feed the hens and chop wood. Like,
Well, yeah.
so I think you just do like Tam's like, well, there's work to do, get to it kind of thing. And then we switch back to they're in
What's
at
going
winter
on for
night
winter night?
and Tom's playing music and everybody's visiting each other and there's laughing and it's cheerful and it's bright.
Yeah, I agree. What winter night is so we can understand more of this
Hmm.
tradition. See, and I feel it's very similar to the whole Joseph and Mary going around at people's doors looking for a place to stay. I
Oh,
think is really where that
interesting.
comes from. It's what it
Huh.
feels like when I read it
Yeah,
about it.
no, when you say that, like that's interesting. That's not a parallel I've thought of before. But
I
yeah, the whole tradition is you visit everybody's houses for winter nights. You visit houses and you share food. Uh, and I think it'd be cute. Like I said, I think it'd be cute as you hear, there's music. You see Tom like on his flute or on his harp just playing music. Um, and there's people wandering around and you see some of Moraine even knocking on doors and like getting part of the tradition and you get, Egwene helping her mom cook and then you have stuff like but then you have a scene of Perrin and Matt together talking to one of the other young boys and it's like, did you see this guy? You know.
yeah,
So you still have it's hopeful and cheerful, but there's still that undertone of something isn't right.
I agree. And then I think after just getting a good establishment of what's going on, there is jumping back then to Rand and Tam to the about to get ready to sit down for supper and the door getting broken open.
Yeah, I think you do just a little bit of that scene. You have Tam lock the door, you have Tam go get his sword, and then they're like sitting down to dinner, and then you have the attack start.
Yep. And then you go through that whole scene up until he starts to drag him and him wish just saying, "Oh, got to get back to Emmons Field and everything will be fine." And then cut back to Emmons Field and
Where
everything is
everything
not
is
fine.
not fine.
Maybe
Yeah.
do a little bit of like get it to tie in well is, they're still kind of going along. You see a few people, but maybe something music-wise is slightly different. There's a tone slightly different, so it seems like something's off, and then the attack happens.
Well, we know the first thing that happens is Moraine runs out of the inn screaming about it. So, like, it could be
Yes.
like you have it like it's calmer. People are saying goodnight. It's like the end of the night. And then you have that. You have Moraine, Trollocs are attacking, and then you have like a fire. You just see like smoke or something and there's a fire going. But the two things I want is like, I want to see more of Perrin and
Everyone's
Matt in this
involvement.
scene. I think Egwene and Nynaeve a little bit later in the like aftermath, but I want to see Perrin and Matt in this.
Yeah, I want to see the Moraine and Land fighting. I want to see Tom Maryland, like just a snippet of him. You just see him. If you're not paying attention, you might not see him, sort of
Yeah, like in
thing.
the background, not like it's focused on him, but in the background you just see like a dagger fly out and hit a Trolloc.
Yeah, and then show a little bit of Matt and Perrin what they're doing.
The one thing I really, really want to establish Matt's whole I'm not a hero, but I'm gonna save people thing that he has that goes on throughout the whole series. And
I
I
agree.
think the scene I want is there's like a house on fire or something. And like you hear somebody scream and somebody's, something where Matt like puts himself in danger to save someone. Like they evacuate their home or something and they're like, Mistress Cawthon is looking around and she's like, Bode's not here, and Matt goes back in to save Bode, or something like
Yes.
that. I think would be a really cool scene. I don't really know what I want to do with Perrin here, to be honest with you. I don't know what to do with him.
I think with Perrin, he could be just him being big and strong and stuff like that, being able to shift a fallen beam to help get somebody unstuck.
Yeah, because I don't really want to see him fighting. I think
Yeah,
that, or like he's part of like the Bucket Brigade trying to put out fires or something where he's
yeah,
helping, but
little
not in
things.
a fighting way.
Yeah, and I want to see Mistress Luhan.
Hit a Trolloc with a frying pan.
Yes, that's important.
That'd be cool. And then I'd like to see afterwards when things are starting to die down. I want to see a scene of I want to see Egwene and Nynaeve doing healing stuff, walking
I
around.
agree.
You know.
Quick question for you. How do you feel about because I don't know if I would go straight into the after effects or if I'd jump back to Rand and Tam in
Yeah.
walking through the woods and getting the hallucinations and stuff, and then jump back to recovery. And
Yeah.
then from
That would
Emmons
definitely
Field,
have a break there.
in the Emmons Field point of view, see Rand and Tam coming out of the woods, not from Rand's point of view dragging into the Emmons Field.
So I think I would have a moment in there where we flash back to Brand and Tam, where Tam's doing his fever dream thing.
Yes. Question though,
Yeah.
how do you feel about whether or not they should keep in the scene where there's all the Trollocs and the merge are all going down the street and he stops and freezes and hides? Do you think they should keep that in or not?
The word for word, this is exactly what happened in the Fellowship of the Ring scene.
Yeah, I think they can do without it.
I kind of think they should keep it. I think it's kind of a cute homage to it. Um, but I could go either way on it. I think it's a cute scene. I think it's a neat little like nod to that scene in Lord of the Rings. But
Yeah.
if they got rid of it, I wouldn't be upset because I do think I'd be more interested to see the split focus of everything. So like I think do, Panic in Emmons Field, Flash Turan pulling Tam's fever dreams.
The merge all scene.
if they keep the Myrdral scene. Flashback to Emmons Field. Now they're in recovery.
Yes.
Things are starting to calm down. And then we see Rand and Tam come in. Or Rand's pulling Tam.
Definitely think yes. The whole show some Egwene and Nynaeve taking care of people, and then just go actually from Egwene's point of view, coming out to Master Luhan helping Rand. I think that's
Yeah.
when she sees him. Have that be to it, and see just how dead Rand looks, like how dumbstruck he looks at everything. And then we can go back to Rand's point of view.
Yeah, so like have that like heartbreaking Nynaeve, I can't do anything to help him moment. Yeah, so they come out of that. Rand goes to the inn, gets Moraine. I think the healing scene should be really cool. I don't think they should show the power, but I think that moment can be really cool.
I think the way it's done in the book, and this is I guess one little side note here, just the use of the power, and I think we can go more into that in episode 2 when we talk about it, is I do think how they're writing in the book, it should be, is she doing anything?
Yeah.
That's how it should feel.
In the books they do it, and it's the first hints of this, and it's fun. It's one of those things you catch on rereads. Is Rand shivers when she's doing something, and I think you need to have that moment.
Yeah, doing rereads, I've seen that a bunch, but at the same time, I don't know if it's consistent, and I think I should try to focus on it on a reread one time and see if it is
You see when it
consistent
is
enough.
and when it isn't. Yeah. Um. So that. Do you think so? Like, what after happens after that is Rand falls asleep and has that dream sequence. Do you think he should do? They should include that or not? I'm kind of leaning towards not, to be honest.
That dream sequence for me, especially through rereads, has made me realize how much of a stroke of genius it is for the side of the dark. Because without that dream sequence, Rand would be much more trusting of Moraine.
Maybe. But I think we get those kind of things later. I mean, that gets pounded
Possibly.
into them, the don't trust Aes Sedai, you're being used thing over and over again. Um, and I kind of don't think they need one here.
I mean,
I don't know.
I could see not having it. I just, that's how I feel about it. Is I definitely think the last part about that, when he gets to the tower, it does a couple of things for me. That first dream sequence. One, we get to see that there's something with Rand's mind, and it's part of the reason why I could see cutting it is because he knows things in his mind that he shouldn't know, and that's one of the first hints that Rand is something more. So I'm okay with cutting it because, like I said, trying to make it less obvious. But at the same time, like I said, the running into a Murdral in the tower is such a great twist in his subconscious that is caused that makes him think that the White Tower is a trap very early on.
No, I definitely get it. So that's like, Moraine tells him you have to come with us, blah, 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 and then he falls asleep and he has that dream. I just think maybe it can be, if they're going to include it, but dream sequences in TV shows are just one of those things that are always kind of weird, and they
True.
always kind of, and so if they, I don't know. I kind of think, like I said, I lean towards not having it. But if they do have it, I think they need to make it shorter, make it a little quicker.
Yeah, I could go either way. Keep it or leave it, one of those options. Either way, I'm fine with it. But after the dream sequence, he talks to his father when he wakes up. I
Yeah,
think that's important. It's the final goodbye for him, like, and because
that's
the whole
true.
father issues are a big deal with him, that goodbye is important.
Yeah, I agree. So, and Tam's the reason he kind of agrees to go for it because, like, Tam's the one that's like, nope, I think you should do it, boy.
Yeah, because he understands how Aes Sedai work. They cannot lie. And he's our main font of knowledge when it comes to Aes Sedai, is that conversation. It's the
Well,
first.
that and Tom. Tom says a lot about them. But early on, yeah.
Tom seems to be from a certain point of view, and Tam seems to be more of a realistic point of view, like seeing it from all sides. So I think it has more weight behind it.
Yeah, so they can keep that conversation, and then you switch to uh Moraine telling the story of Manetheren.
And I think that is what's going to be the final scene for the episode.
I think that it might go a little further. So I think that scene, the way I want that scene done, and the way I picture it is Moraine telling the story and not a full flashback. I don't really want it to be a flashback sequence, but in Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, I don't remember if it's part 1 or part 2 of the movie, when Hermione tells the story of the three brothers and the Deathly Hallows, the way that kind of shadow puppet style of storytelling, and not necessarily a shadow puppet style, but I want it to be more of a stylized thing. I don't want it to just be actors portraying the fall of Manetheren. I want Maureen narrating while like we see some sort of stylized animated story. Not animated, that sounds cartoony, but like
I get what you're saying.
yeah.
It would work really well because she does the whole, gets her staff all flaming and spinning it around, and it can be like in the flickers of the flame. It's
Right?
somehow
It'd be
like,
so cool.
I agree. It would be really cool to have that whole stylized, and it's be very similar to other shows or movies have done it, where there's a flame and you can see the scenes in the flames and stuff like that. So kind of show that somehow through her flaming staff, because yeah, I definitely think it'd be really good. And you say you think it might go longer than that. I don't know. I think it's a good stopping point. It's a very strong stopping point.
I think they'll leave Emmons Field because you don't have the whole party established yet. I think you need to establish who is leaving. So we know Rand is. We know Matt and Perrin are going. I think they need to go far enough that we know Tom and Egwene are joining them. And maybe Nynaeve, we're unsure. Some people think Nynaeve's just going to leave with them, but I disagree. Um,
I could see that, but then here's the thing: is if you do it with them leaving, I guess you could kind of get it to the point where, as they're leaving the stable, go a little bit longer, and it's a little bit more calm, but not so much afterwards that you lose the impression of the story.
yeah, no, I would literally just them leaving. Like it's they get to the stable. That scene I would have go much more quickly than it does in the book. In the book, it kind of drags on everybody joining them. I would have it go faster than that.
But then again, that's reading.
Right.
That is really short when you think about it.
So I would have very quickly, and then just kind of that last little, all right, we're on, and then just last shot being them on their horses charging away. Because, like you've mentioned, with the whole idea of binge watching and stuff, the endings of individual episodes don't have to be so epic as on a regular show.
True. But even still, like, I'm one of those people that, even if it is for binge reasons, that every episode should be able to stand alone by itself. And with that, it needs to have a strong beginning, a strong middle, and a strong end. So that's why I think, yeah, it could be, I would say the last then be all of them filing out of the stables into the night.
Yeah. I don't know. I like the idea of them on their horses charging, and then maybe a pan, and there's a shadow over the moon that we don't know what it
That could
is.
work too.
Just
Ooh,
that
that'd
like
be an
little bit,
interesting.
and they're running, and what's gonna happen next kind of thing.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. Actually, I agree with you there. That way, the next episode would pick up with the, hey, I think I saw a bat in front. No, it's too big to be a bat. I think,
Yeah.
yeah, I agree. You make a good point for where they should end episode one. So I think that's everything. I think we covered the full episode.
Any last thoughts?
Oh, no, I think that's it. I think most of my thoughts can be picked up in another episode.
Yeah.
So I just want to thank everybody for tuning in, and please feel free to leave comments or hit us up at Pod Another on Twitter. I have seen we have been getting comments in the last video, and it is always appreciated.
Yeah, we love hearing from you guys. Love hearing your thoughts. definitely do that. We've also started an Instagram. It's also Another Turning on Instagram. You can find us there. And we will see you the next time the wheel turns.